Hello there. You are someone and I'm someone else, and today we're going to be talking about something very important to me, the global economy. Okay, so what is the global economy? Well, there's two parts to the global economy. There is financial, which is more like money, fake money, and then there's the real supplies of the world, meaning like computer chips, water, food, resources, trillions of dollars of resources. So the financial aspect's all basically fake. The stock market's basically fake in some regards. It does create artificial compounding, which is why you do want to leverage it. Not leverage it, but you do want to use the stock market to your advantage, to get the real stuff in the world. And so many people seem to forget this, that stocks are not real technically. Yes, you own a legal document saying that you own part of this business. That is technically real. I guess the document's real. But let's say the document's burnt or, there's other things like that where, stocks aren't as real as food or water. They're not, food and water cannot be compounded. Well, food can. Water, it's not as replenishable. So it's like, I guess if it rains and it's not polluted, although most rain now is polluted in the world, it's kind of sad. Um, then basically, those are the real things. And I feel like people don't seem to forget there are there are about seven different things you should be buying before you go into the stock market. Now, people always say to me, and I don't know why this is. They say it online. They say it to everyone. Gold, silver, Bitcoin. No, 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 no. Those are fake things. The reason why they're fake is because what are you gonna do? Can you eat gold? Can you eat silver? Can you breathe Bitcoin? No, you can't breathe. You can't drink. You can't eat that stuff. That's why I say the real things in the world are water. Three days without water, you're dead. Oh, air, get as much air as possible. I don't know how you're gonna buy air, but 3 minutes without air, you die. So try to get a mask or something that has air in it. What is it? Food. 3 weeks without food, you die. So make sure you have at least a couple months worth of food for the apocalypse. What is it? What else was I thinking? Oh, guns, bullets to protect those three resources. Medications and farming to replicate a food source. Um, And I don't know if you can find a way to get fresh water, do that as well. Fresh air too. Like you need farms for those things. You need those things in particular, and you need medications, and you need guns and bullets. So what is that? 9 things altogether. Those things, while the resources that replicate are the farms, are the most important thing because they're compounding resources that you actually need. And some stocks actually have that. When you look at Nestle, they have the fresh water. They believe they can commoditize fresh water. So you gotta look at the world through a different lens. You gotta look at the world of computers don't matter in an apocalyptic environment. Don't focus on computers. I know I'm a nerd and I like computers or whatever. Don't focus on that, okay? I mean that's no. Don't focus on computers when there's an apocalypse happening. Um, Now we're gonna be talking about besides those 9 items, the farms, the water, the food, the medications, the whatever, all that stuff that I just talked about. We're going to be talking about bond prices. Because I have noticed, I have not found a video on bond prices. They have not been talking about bonds because bonds don't produce a lot of money compared to stocks. But I have been wanting to buy bonds for a while now. And I have finally bought some bonds in the last month. I finally bought a few treasury bonds. And so right now I'm going to talk to you about treasury bonds. Okay. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go, this is a bond price, or this is bond and rates. And as rates increase, bond prices decrease. You see? Bond prices decrease as the rates decrease, the price increases of the bond. And as the price increases on the bond, so does the yield go down. The yield of the bond is also correlates with interest rates, not always. And generally speaking, this is not always true. Generally speaking, uh, when when bond yields go up or down, generally the 10-year Treasury bill is the best one. 10-year, well, not Treasury bill, but 10-year any bills, corporate bills, I mean, correlate very well higher than normal interest rates, which is why you want 10-year about double B corporate bills, because they have higher interest rates than A's, but they're not at risk of bankruptcy as like C's. So you don't want to get a C bill. You want to get, like, in terms of bonds, you want to get something. Oh, they're not bills. I don't know what you call them. Corporate bonds is what you call them. But Treasury bills, what I do, and when I invest, is I buy ETFs. And I don't recommend this, but you could go ahead and do this if you want. But what I do is I buy ETFs because I'm stupid and I don't know what I'm doing. So that's what I do. And the know nothing investors should really only be doing that. But if you're good at investing, you shouldn't be doing what I'm doing. That's trying to beat the market instead of like just copying it. Um, but honestly, most investors just don't beat it, so it's probably better to match it. But yeah, I mean, I hold like 30% of my portfolio in bonds. On the financial aspect. The financial aspect, okay, we haven't really talked that much. We talked about the real world resources, but we have not talked about financial. So that would be currencies, stocks, bonds, and any compounding instrument like a savings account, uh, IRA in the United States. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the United States, but here in the United States, we have IRAs. I don't know why it is. U.S. citizens are entitled to an IRA. But we have all kinds of stuff here in the U.S. I don't know what you guys have in Canada. I think you have some sort of ISPs or something in Canada, and whatever you guys have in the UK, some weird stuff. Australia, you get the point. Every country has their own certain counts. Saving. They might not call it a savings account. They might call it in a different language. I don't know, right? But you all have different. Yeah, you all. I'm starting to get the East Coast accent. Uh, you you all have different different ways of valuing money. Like the Russian ruble, for instance, is way less valuable than the U.S. dollar. So you guys have to think about that. You people have to think about it. When you buy a currency or when you're trading a currency, how valuable is that currency? First off, and do you really want to be doing exchanges of that currency? Let's say the currency collapses and you're using it in the stock market. Let's say the U.S. dollar collapses and all your stocks are valued in U.S. dollars. Oh no, you basically have wasted your time. And so that's the thing is why I recommended those 9 resources before, because that's when the U.S. dollar collapses, there is more likely going to be an apocalypse or this the devaluation of the U.S. dollar, and that can cause a huge financial thing where the whole fake industries will collapse. I mean, when I say fake industries, I mean like education, right? When I mean like elementary school all the way to college, that's a fake career. Don't become a school teacher. Um, fake careers. What do I mean by fake careers? Accounting. Like fake careers are basically things we don't really need as much. We need people who farm. We need people. They don't get valued as much, but because financially they don't get paid as much. But you gotta look at it through who's actually producing this stuff. I'm not a Marxist by any means. I don't like socialism, but I can understand where they're trying to say, hey, this is how we should be valuing labor, kind of. There's an owner class and there's a worker class. Yes, that's true. But the only reason the worker class exists is because of the ownership class. I mean, think about it. If I didn't invest my money into the farm, that farm wouldn't even have any employees that would have a wage in the first place. So you have to look at it through that lens as well. The investors are just as important as workers. Investors, consumers, owners, and employees are all and managers are all important. We all have to value them equally in some ways. But we can't, because investors want their certain return on investment. And investors always and generally in every economy are the most powerful people. I mean, you look at it. Look at Sweden, right? One of the most powerful countries for like a little small economy. I mean, they're pretty small, but when you look at their investing class, they pay less taxes than everybody else. Right? If you're a stock market investor in Sweden, you're making less, you're getting paid less taxes in Sweden. So you got to look at it through that lens. And I feel like people don't understand that Sweden is not a socialist country. If they were socialist, they would be taxing all their investors. They don't do that because they wouldn't have any wealth that pay their employees. So you've got to look at it through that lens too. Like they treat their employees well, but they also treat their investors way better than here, way better than the U.S. So you have to look at it through that lens. And people just do not look at the privatized section of Sweden. They only look at the socialist side. Does that make sense? And so Sweden's gotten very good at collecting natural resources by using investors' money and by using US dollars and other currencies, putting them in their banks to make sure like the Swedish crown doesn't go down, whatever they use, Swedish currency. Like you gotta look at it through that. They don't use euros in Sweden, by the way. In case you guys didn't know, I don't think they use euros anymore. I don't know. They still use. I don't know. They probably don't use euros. I've never really heard of them using euros. I think their currency's tied to the euro, though. Um, but like again, you guys have to. I mean, you people have to think before you do something. You have to think, where is this money going? You have to make a budget. Wealthy people make budgets. Poor people just spend everything. In order to be wealthy, you have to be committed, or I mean, you have to have content, and you have to have a budget. Those are the two things you must have as a wealthy person. And money is just an amplifier. Also keep that in mind. So there's three things you have to know about wealthy people. First thing is they budget. Second thing is they're content. They like what they have. They're not willing to spend as much more money than what they have. And third thing is, money is just an amplifier to them. It's an amplifier to their personality. So if they're a jerk with money, they're going to be more jerky when they have more money. If they're a nice person with money, they're going to be nicer with money. If they are, I don't know, like in the middle, if they're just lazy, they're going to be lazier with more money. That's all money is. It's an amplifier. I'd say laziness is the primary factor of more money. It's to not work. So you got to look at it through that lens. Is laziness, niceness, being a jerk, you know, screwing people over. That's all an amplified scenario for money. I mean, you look at Latin America. The reason why Latin America is not as successful as the United States, all these Spanish speaking countries, is because they're incentivized to screw each other over. Because what the Spanish did when they colonized is they basically made all these loopholes and all these laws to basically screw over the natives or screw over whoever was living there at the time. And when they screwed them over, the native people who were born in New Spain didn't like that, and they started rebelling, and they still kept some of the laws from their colonized master lords, whatever you call that country. I don't know. Colonized Spain, basically. They kept some of the laws that Spain kept, but that disincentivized people to keep screwing people over more and more. And so you've noticed that there's been decades of dictators and all kinds of terrible things in Spanish speaking America and Spanish speaking Latin America. Now, I'm not saying that Latin America is necessarily bad. There's plenty of good places in Latin America, just like there's plenty of bad places in Latin America. I mean, there's 26 countries. You can't judge all 26 countries based on Spain. But you can judge basically how the government structure is different from the United States, where it's pretty lax. When you look at the laws now over time, the United States has slowly incorporated a lot of the culture from Latin America into our laws. And so what's happening is now people are more incentivized more and more to screw us over. And so you're going to see that more with the technocrats of California. You're going to see it more with the oil tycoons of Oklahoma. They're going to start, these states that are very powerful are going to start colonizing other states. They're going to slowly spread their influence and start to control things. And the people who make the most laws are the people who win. And so us libertarians who are against the government are going to lose. We are going to lose. We have to accept the fact we're going to lose, and we have to put our heads down, and we just have to live in a world that screws us over and time again. Accept that right now. Okay? Just go breed and then live your miserable life and then die. And that's basically what they want. And so they can create their servants for their laws and their things. And that's what's going to happen is this Latin American culture of is going to basically create loopholes and weird things like that. We already do have a lot of loopholes things, but we incentivize investors more than Latin American countries as well. I've noticed with Venezuela, they didn't incentivize investors as much. A lot of the investors pulled out of Venezuela, and so it caused the economic collapse. So you got to look at it through that lens too. Is what exactly is going to happen to the investors? Again, I'm not always pro investors. Some investors really are jerks. Again, money's is an amplifier of your personality, or amplifier of what you buy. And a lot of wealthy people are content. They just have what they have, and they don't want to spend any more money. If you have everything you need, like I do, you're pretty content in this world. You don't need anything else. So be content and just admit that you're going to lose because there's nothing you can do. There are people more powerful and more influential than you. You can speak out against them, but there's nothing else you can do besides that. They'll throw you in jail probably eventually over time if they get more and more power. Depending if we turn to the Russian Federation, it will happen. I don't think we will end up like the Russian Federation. I think the Russian Federation's a little bit more strange. I don't think we're ever gonna keep that. I don't think we're ever gonna have an oligarch too oligarch of a culture. It's gonna be mostly government employees. It's gonna look a little bit stranger than that, because in Russia the oligarchs are basically not as government tied. Um, they're more religious in some ways. The oligarchs in Russia, so maybe we'll be more. I don't know. It's interesting. I don't know. I just look at weird things of history. Um, but you know, just because I'm weird and I just look at things through a different lens, I don't trust the government on anything. Every single world government that takes away guns or destroys the liberty of their people. I'm a libertarian. I want to liberate people from the government. That's what I'm a liberator libertarian. I believe that we should liberate the people away from the government. The government still should function, obviously, but when it functions too well, where it controls so much of life, where they could just control what you make and what the rent is on every single home, that's when it becomes scary. And I really hope that when they go into power, more and more of these people, that they don't control more and more of my life. But I'm willing to accept it at this point. We've already lost. There's nothing you can do. So keep your heads down. Wait for the collapse of the U.S. dollar. If the U.S. dollar doesn't collapse, just keep your heads down anyway. And hope you guys have a good life. Goodbye, everyone. Remember, you are someone and I am someone else. Signing out. Goodbye.